All right. Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. So I'm here to talk about why Ethereum needs privacy, why blockchain needs privacy, why a lot of the issues and problems that Web3 is facing today are because we do not have privacy. So, we live in very interesting times. The internet has been a enormous net positive for humanity. Being able to access the entirety of the world's knowledge at our fingertips has transformed society, but it also has produced a lot of negative downsides associated with the fact that today, the default monetization model of the internet is advertising, and it means that as a user, you are not a customer, you are a product. And all you really are is the sum of your monetizable data. And this is creating very perverse incentives. It's creating online spaces where people can't distinguish between what's real and what's fake, what's human and what's artificial. And what is happening is that we are transitioning from a high-trust society into a low-trust society. And this is problematic. And I think that we need new information networks to restore this balance, to build back trust infrastructure. This is the basic blockchain thesis, one could argue. But if we look at what's happened over the last 10 years, that thesis has not been fulfilled. And I would argue the reason is because of a lack of privacy. So I want to go on a bit of a tangent before I go into that and talk a little bit about information networks and communication complexity. Because I think this is important. It's important to understand why a blockchain is such a big deal, why privacy is so important and required for blockchain to succeed. So I want to talk a little bit about, give it a little thought experiment. Okay, so imagine, congratulations, you have a time machine and you are now in the year 10,000 BC. Congratulations. I think that's the early Stone Age. Imagine you go up to a hunter-gatherer tribe. They're sitting by a fire, trading tales, and you go up to their elders and you're like, yo, do you want to buy a road? Now, I might look at you and go, what the hell do you mean? What's a road? What is buy? And you would say, great, well, roads, they're these things that allow you to get really efficient, like really quickly, you can go from A to B, from like one area to another area. They're great. They're going to be all the rage in 10,000 years. You'll love them. And they'll look at you a bit, and they'll be confused, and they'll be like, well, can I bring this road with me? And you might say, no, that's not how roads work. It's just, fixed points, A to B. And they would not have any use for what you're selling, right? A road is the most fundamental kind of information network that you can have to transmit information between different physical locations. And at some point in our prehistory, roads were useless because our society was based around hunter-gathering, where tribes, people, communities, they traveled with available resources. They would move where the resources are, they deplete that area of resources, and they would move on. And the idea of just going from two fixed points efficiently was completely useless. And the reason I bring this up is because we are facing a similar paradigm today when it comes to distributed transaction networks, particularly ones that incorporate privacy. Because what we're trying to build are information networks that don't exist today. We live in a world where all the interactions that we perform in our lives, they enmesh us in this network of obligation and responsibility where we are dependent and rely upon third parties, custodians, middlemen to perform all the basic interactions in our lives. And what the technology that our community is building is presenting a fundamentally different paradigm where transactions and interactions are atomic, they're permissionless, they don't require middlemen. They're interactions where sensitive information is held by individuals, and you only prove statements about what you need, where you're trusting math and cryptography instead of people. And when you try to describe these networks to people and the need for them, I think in many ways it's a little bit like talking to a caveman and trying to sell a road. But things are changing. This is the year of privacy, because nowadays the technology is advanced enough that some of these applications are being built and deployed and starting to change the narrative, and that's something I'm very excited about. So I also want to go on a bit of a Rome tangent when it comes to information networks. So, while I'm talking about Rome, imagine you're an alien and you have no context of humanity, human society, human civilization, but you are looking at the Earth at the height of the Roman Empire, and you're looking at the physical terrain of Europe. Without knowing anything about the intelligent beings that are occupying that land, you will be able to understand a few things about their society. You'll be able to understand that society is a hegemonic empire that has which has an imperial core that is projecting power across a large landmass, and that it is largely at peace. And the reason you could do this is purely by observing Rome's road network. Because the road network, the phrase all roads lead to Rome. Rome is the core of the road network, and you have these arteries radiating out into the provinces, into the territories. And so that tells you that there is some kind of core to the society. And you can tell that it's hegemonic and imperialistic because, and at peace, because the simple fact is that in that kind of Iron Age society, when you have a road network like that, it means that armies can travel very, very quickly and efficiently between towns, between settlements. So you better damn well ensure that there's only one army marching down those roads. Why do I bring this up? It's because information networks shape societies, and societies shape information networks. Similarly, you could look at the highway system of the European Union, and you could determine from that, and that alone, that you have a more of a confederated, peaceful society of where you still have distinct geographic polities, but they're all largely at peace and cooperating with each other. And you can tell that because the road networks of these countries, of European countries, they're still very focused within the capital cities. So the road network of France, it'll be radiating around Paris. You'll have Berlin as a core. You'll have lots and lots of different cores, and no centralized area. So you'll be able to tell that you have quite somewhat isolated and distinct cultures, but there's a lot of communication and admixture between them. Whereas I would argue that the American interstate highway system is much more mixed. So you could tell that it's a much more homogeneous culture, much more organized. Anyway, so what are the information networks that we're trying to build on Ethereum? What are we with privacy? One of the problems that we have today is that, with the internet, the rise of the internet, for the first time, we are able to engage in a many-to-many style of communication between human beings. If I have an idea that I want to express, I can share it with millions of people, tens of millions of people, hundreds of millions of people, and they can share their ideas with me. And this has never been possible before. Before the internet, you have mass media, where it's a one-to-many style of communication. If you're publishing in a magazine or broadcasting from a TV show. And the problem with that information network of the internet is that you cannot distinguish signal from noise. It means everybody's communicating with each other, everybody's talking, but it's almost impossible to distinguish what's high quality, what's low quality, because the incentives are all completely misaligned. And this is where blockchain comes in my opinion. Blockchain is an information network where you can put your money where your mouth is. It allows individuals to decide on how they are going to coordinate with each other, collaborate, to deploy their resources to achieve outcomes, to engage and enable projects. And it allows for, in my opinion, which we're going to see over the coming decades, a much more efficient and effective form of many-to-many communication, because it's not just raw information. There's value attached to it. Anyway, that's what we're trying to build in an abstract way. But why does privacy matter? What is privacy to begin with? Privacy for me is being able to prove statements derived from undisclosed information. Like I have a UK passport. Here's a digital signature of that passport, but I'm going to hide my name and my age. It's information asymmetries. It's being able to vote, and your vote can be counted into the total, but nobody knows how you voted. That's an information asymmetry. It enables things like identity technologies. It enables you to bring information from Web 2 and put it into Web 3 and attest about what's happening in the real world. And it enables you to build trust infrastructure. So why privacy? Why privacy? If you look around in blockchain today, all value in blockchain is sourced from two locations, and only two. You have the economic value of consensus on a network, and you have dollar-backed stablecoins, and you have nothing else. And this is a problem, because that revenue universe is very, very capped. We're not talking to the real world. You don't have real-world assets, or even like intellectual property from the real world, or anything derived from the real world doesn't exist on-chain, apart from a proxy into US treasuries. If the price of Ethereum went to 0, the value of every single token on Ethereum, except USDC and USDT, would go to 0. So the sources of fundamental value in our ecosystem is extremely limited, and that's why we are in this trap where like all the economic activity is focused around gambling and meme coins and celebrity meme coins, and it's not becoming more meaningful. It's been 10 years, by the way, 10 years more or less since Ethereum launched, and we've not been beyond that yet. So how do we pierce this Web3 bubble? The solution is privacy. You need to do three things, in my opinion. One, you need to be able to seamlessly interface with Web2 systems. You need to get information from Web 2 and the real world into Web 3 in a trustless manner, where you can authenticate its data provenance. I should be able to prove that I have an Apple account. I should be able to prove that I own a Twitter account that has over 1,000 followers, so I'm probably not a bot. I should be able to say I am a UK taxpayer because here is an email sent to me by the UK tax authorities recognizing my contributions. Because once you can prove data provenance without sharing personal data, then you can start to build meaningful on-chain systems that talk to the off-chain world. Step 2 is you link accounts, cryptocurrency accounts, to identities. This is fundamental to talk to the real world. Instead of, when I transact on chain right now, I'm saying, hello, I am OX3AFF220, B or whatever, or, I am zkproofs.eth. Synthetic abstract identities. Here's what I want to be able to do. I want to go to a smart contract, and I want to be able to say to that smart contract, to that algorithm, my name is Zachary James Williamson. I am a British citizen. I am 36 years old, and I live in London. If I can do that, then the applications and products and services you can build on-chain suddenly explode into something which is much more meaningful. And the design space of what you can do with a smart contract changes fundamentally. This unlocks decentralized applications that can interface with the real world, that can perform checks and logical controls on who you are to distinguish, to determine whether you can transact in that system. And once you have these tools, once you have these technologies, then you can actually really meaningfully push to establish digital sovereignty. You can establish precedents that digital ownership of on-chain assets implies a legal claim to property and assets in the real world. This is the Holy Grail, and this will not be achieved unless we as a community can build compelling products and services that require this functionality. And none of this can happen. None of this can happen without privacy technology. Because without privacy technology, you can not put your identity on chain and prove things about it. Without privacy technology, you cannot trustlessly attest to information that's come from Web 2. Without privacy technology, you're stuck. We are stuck in this coins and monkeys equilibrium that I don't think many people are satisfied with. So, how is the missing link built? I mean, I'm a broken record here, and also biased. Aztec's building the missing link. So you need three things. You need a programming language that you can use to code up smart contracts that have private state. So you need an idiomatic way of writing these programs that works over encrypted state with semantics to handle those state transformations and convert that program execution into a zero-knowledge proof. This is extremely non-trivial. Private state is not just as simple as just encrypting data. There's a lot more to it than that. And ensuring that you have a language which makes it easy is fundamental. And then you can make a private blockchain, a distributed ledger where you have support both for regular smart contract semantics, but also this concept of private state privacy, being able to obscure who you are, what contracts you're interacting with, what's the data that you're modifying. And this requires a fundamental re-architecture of what a blockchain even is, because the state models are so different. And then on top of that, you need an absolute state-of-the-art cryptographic proving system to ensure that you can turn all these mathematical zero-knowledge proofs you need into, you can have software that produces these proofs that can run on local hardware, that can run on phones and laptops, because if you're trying to prove statements about sensitive data, you do not want that data to leave the user's device, which means the user, the person sending their blockchain transaction, they need to make the proof. And this is very challenging. This is what, honestly, I've been spending 7 years focusing on. But we have the ingredients. We have the missing links, and we're building these technologies. Meaningful privacy, decentralized privacy. Privacy where no information is being leaked, not to a counterparty, not to some off-chain service or an app chain. You are interacting with a smart contract and disclosing information to the smart contract algorithm and nobody else, and nobody sees what you're doing. So normally I talk about like what could be done with privacy tech. It's always about potentials and abstractions, but in 2025, this is no longer the case because the technology is advanced enough to build actual products and services which utilize this capability. It's being used to build the future of Web3. So, spoiler alert, these are all built with Noir. Noir is the ZK programming language of the Aztec network, but it goes far beyond Aztec. So here are some examples that excite me incredibly. So in January, at Aztec, we held a little hacker house in London. And one of the teams that came, they used the Open Banking API to create trustless peer-to-peer on- and offboarding into Web3. Open Banking API is basically European banks, UK banks. They expose an API you can talk to trigger financial transactions from account holders in that bank. And the very nice thing about it is that A, banks have to have it, and B, the response you get when you talk to this API, the response is signed, digitally signed by the bank, which means you can use it. You can wrap it in a ZK proof, and you can put it on chain, and you can prove to somebody that you've sent them money in the real world. And then you can use that to create escrow services on chain to swap real world money for crypto. Peer-to-peer, between strangers that don't know each other or trust each other. Absolutely radical. And they got this working. They got a proof of concept, they got a prototype working in a hacker house over a weekend. People are building bank-grade private security tokens, passport-grade on-chain credentials, so you can prove your citizenship on-chain to a smart contract. You have anonymous social media with Anoncast. That was built over a weekend with Noir. ZK email now, the fastest client-side prover, is built with Noir, where you can get a trustless proof of email. You can get a strong data provenance, so you can say, here, here's an email I received from Facebook, talking about my account. I am therefore an account owner on Facebook. And then privacy-preserving wallets being built on the Aztec network, which are forming the seeds of real D-banks, actual D-banks, not just like banking-like services for tokens and meme coins, but actually like real banking services for real-world assets. I mean, this is just the seeds of it, the start of it, but this is where things are going, and this excites me incredibly. Like, these are being built today. You can use some of them today. You can use Anoncast today. You can use ZK email today. Like, the future is here. So I just want to end by saying, this has been an interesting year for Web3. I don't think I'm alone in saying that the headwinds that we're running into are deeply problematic. What are the major news stories in crypto this year? It's the deluge of celebrity meme coins like Trump, Milei, Kanye West, all sorts of nonsense, and $1 billion hacks from North Korea. There's certainly, in my opinion, a feeling of stagnation. What you can do with a smart contract hasn't changed in years. And despite this, though, I'm extraordinarily positive about the future for Web3 and Ethereum because like the premier state-of-the-art privacy technology is being built with Ethereum in mind today. It's being built on top of Ethereum, and it's going to mean that Ethereum can finally fulfill the original ambitions and aspirations that it had all those years ago. When Aztec was hosting this little hacker house in January, it reminded me of something. It reminded me of the feelings that I felt when I was getting into crypto and Web3 8 years ago in 2017. I was going to hacker houses back then and hackathons, and people were building innovative, interesting, ambitious stuff. Like the stuff that people don't work on today anymore, like supply chain stuff, logistics, real-world assets, real-world payments. They were working on, the insurance, basically they were trying to take existing products and services from Web2, from TradFi, and decentralizing them, and competing against those centralized services and cutting out the middleman. But we all know how that ended, right? Like, these projects, nothing ever happened to them because the technology did not exist. For all these projects to work, you need privacy technology, which did not exist in 2017, but now it does. And that was the vibe I got in that hacker house, because those were the products that people were building: real-world payments, supply chain services. And not only were they building them, but they were getting end-to-end demos working in in a weekend, because the technology is here, and Ethereum will be cypherpunk again. Thank you.